All right, let's start by giving all praises to the Most High, whose true name in Hebrew is Yahweh, in the name of his only begotten Son, whose true name in Hebrew is Yahweh Shai, and the Holy Spirit, which is the Rakakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles, and the Holy Spirit, who taught us his truth. Honors to the brethren that's laboring, doing the work to push the gospel, risking their life and freedom to do so. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect, which will be 1/3 of us Israelites, according to the scriptures, who will be the Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, and Seminole Indians, who will be seeking their salvation by returning back to the Most High, by hearing and believing this word, so that he will have mercy on us in judgment. So we back with another lesson through the power and spirit of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shah. This lesson is going to be titled, Remember the Help Received from Heaven. Again, remember the help received from heaven. And what inspired this lesson, we tell our people, we the Israelites. We tell them who the Edomites are, the so-called white people today. We tell them about the mark of the beast, the RFID microchip, and the Neuralink brain chip being mandate. We tell them the dollar gonna collapse, society gonna collapse. It's gonna be blackouts, internet gonna go out, phones ain't gonna work, ain't gonna be no ambulance, ain't gonna be no 911, ain't gonna be no help. A man's foes will be dead of his own household. It's gonna be civil wars and purges and exterminations going out through the streets of America. The FEMA death camps, catastrophes, disasters, calamities, all of that here in this time of Jacob's trouble, also known as the Great Tribulation. And people believe the gospel. They believe it, appear to believe it, and people will often ask, well, what do we do in these times? Well, this lesson is for them people. Well, once you believe the gospel, you can see these things afar off. I tell people, now you believe you can see these things, you got to read for yourself now. And why do you got to read for yourself? To remember the help received from heaven. Everything we about to go through, any situation, any scenario, one of our great forefathers, ancestors already been in a very similar, been in the same situation. And you can read about how Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai delivered our ancestors from them situations, them trials and tribulations. So that's why we tell people you got to read for yourself now. You appear to believe prophecy and see it. Now you gotta get the detailed accounts of different events in the scriptures, so you can see, what our ancestors went through, and you can see how it played out for them who waited upon the Lord. So again, that's why this lesson is titled, Remember the Help Received from Heaven. If you can see the gospel, you can believe prophecy, you got to read. So you can know how to handle being in a famine, how to handle pestilence, teeth of wild beasts, the sword. People, all of that. So we're going to hit Romans 15:4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. All right. So it says, for whatever things were written aforetime. And what's written aforetime? Everything recorded in this book. It was written for our learning today. So all these events, all these writings was written for us today in this generation. It wasn't written or meant for previous generations, such as our great-grandparents, grandparents, even some of our parents. It's for this generation. It was written for our learning today, that we, through patience and comfort of the scriptures, might have hope. And this patience and comfort only applies to the elect, those who was created with faith in the womb. So you gotta, truly have faith to be comforted by these scriptures. That's why we tell the people, okay, you see prophecy, you got eyes to see. You can perceive the gospel when you hear it. All right. Well, this time of trouble such as never been is coming. Now you got to read for yourself because any and everything that we about to go through is already in the scriptures, and you can read about how it played out and see that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. Well, again, this applies to them who have faith because when you get these detailed accounts and how Yahweh Bashim Yahushua delivered our people, that contributes to your hope. Because you can't have hope if you don't know what to hope in. Like a Christian that screams, pray for America. That's nowhere in the scriptures. So if your hope lies in the wrong thing, your hope is going to be made void. That's hopelessness. And that's what we don't got over here. We know exactly what's coming. And we know exactly, what the Lord is capable of doing according to what he's done in the past and that we read about. And knowing what the Lord has done aforetime through reading, through studying on our own, well, that gives us hope today. And that's what comfort us. All right, so we're going to go to the book of Deuteronomy 30:1. And it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before thee, thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whither the Lord Yahweh have driven thee. Okay, so this is going in about, us waking up to this truth. It says what? That when these things come upon us, the curses, that we will call the curses to mind, everywhere that the Lord has driven us, everywhere that He scattered us. So worldwide, the house of Israel, everybody on this chart is identifying with the curses. That's the beginning stages of us waking up. So yeah, we call in the curses to mind. It's a flip side to that though. Let's read it again. It shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse. So we called the curses to pass already. So that's how we know, we them people whom the Lord is talking to. Well, guess what? Now, it's time to build up our faith and our hope. So what? Now let's call these blessings to pass. Let's call to pass, all the miracles, all the different instances, when those of our people was delivered by the hand of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah. Call to mind, Daniel being delivered from the lion's den. The three holy men of Israel who was delivered in the fiery furnace. King David, whom the Lord protected everywhere he went, from the other nations, from the Philistines, from the house of Saul. Call all these different miracles to mind. Especially the 40 years in the wilderness. Call all that to mind, and we need to call these things to mind here at the end. So, that we have hope and we be comforted. And the comfort don't necessarily apply now. Yeah, we got comfort. It's a saying in the world, knowing is half the battle. So that comforts us. At least we know what's coming. And guess what? At least we know the way out. But, you can only call these blessings to mind by reading. And then ultimately this comfort will come into play in these real life situations. The hour of temptation, the famine, the pestilence, the teeth of wild beasts, fleeing the cities, the comfort starts now from us knowing perfectly well what's coming and knowing perfectly well what to have hope in. But that comfort is going to be fully manifested in these times of trouble when we know exactly what to pray for and who to call on. All right, so we're going to hit the book of Ecclesiastes 1 and 9. The thing that have been is that which shall be. So what? The things of the past is going to be the things of the future. And that which is done is that which shall be done. So the things that's been done before shall be done again. And there is no new thing under the sun. So what? You know, Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah, all these miracles he's about to perform for us. They've been performed here on the earth before. It's just going to be new to this lifetime. So what? There's no new thing under the sun. The Lord did it before, the Lord can do it again. The Lord is alive and perfectly well. He ain't sleeping, he ain't taking a vacation. Is there anything whereof it may be said, see, this is new? Yeah, so when these blessings, these miracles is being performed for the elect, those on the outside gonna be like, what is this? You know, because they not gonna be in the know. You know what I'm saying? You know, it would be them who didn't read. And not all members of the elect, more specifically the women and children, may not read this whole book and know all the different miracles. But if they the elect, it's going to be performed for them. But again, people on the outside, you know, they're going to say, is this new? This man just manifested food. He made water come out of a tree trunk. Water come out of a rock. You know, bread and meat just fell from the sky. They're going to say, see, this is new. And no, it ain't new. It's just new to you, new to this lifetime. But that same act of mercy has been performed here on the earth under the sun before, in the generations of old. Look, it had been already of old time, which was before us. Yeah, there's no remembrance of former things. But, you know, those of us who receive these acts of mercy by Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah, you know, the Lord did this same, you know, act of mercy in the generations of old. He did it before. He can do it again. And people got to know that. So what? You know, the famine. I forget the instance of the story, but the woman, she had only a little bit of oil left, you know, for her son. And she used the oil as normal, and the oil never diminished. You know, I seen that play out in real life already. Lord, whether I do another lesson on it. But, you know, you got to read to know what was done in the times of old. So what? So you can know what to hope in. And once you know what to hope in, that will comfort you. Now, all you got to do is have faith that it really happened. Because if you have faith that it really happened, that means you have faith that it can happen again. Because see, the Christians, they read this book as an ancient book. You know, like these miracles and blessings, you know, happened back in the Bible days. Not knowing we still in the Bible days are forever. But they speak of these blessings and these miracles like the earth will never see them again. Well, these blessings and these miracles performed in the times of old, they're going to come back, you know, bigger and better than they've ever been before. And we're going to show that. All right, so now we know that what? The things written aforetime was written for our learning. Meaning what? We instructed to read. So read the different accounts. You know, especially in the whole book, read this stuff so you know what you should believe in. You know what to have hope in. Why? Because there's nothing new under the sun. the thing that's been done is that which shall be done. So everything written in this book is going to happen again. You know, especially the miracles and the blessings for the elect. So when we go to the book of Ecclesiasticus, also known as Sirach 2 and 10, look at the generations of old and see, did ever any trust in the Lord and was confounded? Or did any abide in his fear and was forsaken? Or whom did he ever despise that called upon him? So yeah, what does it mean to look at the generations of old? It means you need to read. So those of our people who is new to the truth or young believers, yeah, you can see prophecy. You can receive the gospel that we the people, that the Lord was chastising us, but he's going to have mercy on us and execute judgment here on the earth. You know, you can see and receive all that. Well, now you need to look at the generations of old, and that requires you to read, and not just the New Testament, but the Old Testament and the Apocrypha, along with the New. That would be this book in its entirety. So look at the generations of old and see that ever any trust in the Lord that was confounded. And the most famous stories, Daniel in the lion's den. Was Daniel confounded? No, the three wise men of Israel in the fiery furnace. Was they forsaken? You know, David, he always called upon the Lord. Was he despised? Baby Yahweh Shah, you know, the king was out to destroy him. Him and his family was instructed to flee to Egypt. You know, Moses was going up against the most powerful man in the earth at that time. In the book of Hebrews 11 chapter will tell you that Moses had no regard for Pharaoh and his wrath. So yeah, Moses, Aaron, and the Israelites, they wasn't forsaken or confounded coming out of Egypt. Noah in the flood. Look what the Lord did for Noah. Look what he did for Lot and his immediate family. You know, you gotta look at the generations of old. It means to read. Let's continue. This is not in the notes, but let's get it. For the Lord Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai is full of compassion and mercy and long suffering, and very pitiful and forgiveth sins, and saveth in time of affliction. So yeah, we're gonna be saved in the times of our affliction. And people claim to be, you know, saved already. They don't even know what they saved from. You're gonna have many times of afflictions. So we're gonna need to be saved out of all of that. You know, the Lord, you know, we don't just have to be saved from one thing. But I think the book of Job say we're gonna be delivered in 6 troubles. And in the 7th shall no evil touch us. So we got many things that we need to be saved and delivered from. And now we're gonna show an instance, you know, in the book of Maccabees when they did what? You know, they're going to call to mind the blessings and the miracles. Meaning what? They knew the scriptures. So let's go to this in the book of Maccabees. We're going to hit Second Maccabees chapter 15. We're going to start at verse 7. But Maccabees had ever sure confidence that the Lord would help him. And the backstory, Maccabees, you know, his brothers, the Israelite men, they was fighting against the heathen, you know, who was being led by the Greeks. Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. And the book of Maccabees was tell you that they was fighting for their lives and their laws. All right. Wherefore he exhorted, meaning he encouraged his people not to fear the coming of the heathen against them. And what? The heathen gonna come against us again. You know, the military lockdown of America, martial law, UN troops, foreign invaders, even the foes of our family, of our own household. So again, wherefore he exhorted his people not to fear the coming of the heathen against them, but to remember the help which in former times they had received from heaven. So yeah, he told them to remember the help which in former times they received from heaven. So what? He's actually telling them to what? To look at the generations of old. To what? To call to mind the blessings and the miracles done previously. Because if the Lord did it before, he can and will do it again. Let's read this all the way through. Wherefore he exhorted his people not to fear the coming of the heathen against them, but to remember the help which in former times they had received from heaven, and now to expect the victory and aid which should come unto them from the Almighty. So yeah, that's the reason this ministry is set up, to build up the minds of our people, to edify them in his knowledge. To what? To build up their faith. And in that faith, well, they can now have hope. And not blind hope, but hope in the right thing. And and that's why it's important to read the scriptures for yourself. New believers, young believers. You can see the gospel. You can receive the gospel and you can see prophecy. Now you got to get these detailed accounts so that what? In our times of trouble, that we can what? We can remember the help which in former times we received from heaven. But you can only remember if you read it. You know? And then, in a time of a famine, the time of pestilence, the time of fleeing from the face of the serpent, the time of the hour of temptation, being faithful unto death. We can remember the help received from heaven in the former times. And then what? In doing that, expect the victory, even in death. Even if you die for the sake of the gospel, there's a victory in that. Lord said, be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. Yahweh Shai got the victory in his death. And that was what? Written aforetime for our learning today. To know that even in death, we not defeated. But what? Still expect that victory and aid. That's that help, which will come to us from the Almighty. And so comforting them out of the law and the prophets. So what? They was reading out the Old Testament. And that's where a lot of them different accounts of our people being delivered is written. That's why it's important to read the whole book to the best of your ability. And so comforting them out of the law and the prophets, and withal putting them in the mind of the battles that they won afore, meaning that they won before. He made them more cheerful. Yeah, there was in some heavy times in the book of Maccabees. Book of Maccabees about to play out all over again on a much bigger scale. So what? Again, going back to Romans 15:4, the things written aforetime was written for our learning, that we, through patience and comfort of the scriptures, might have hope. Well, them reading out the law and the prophets, remembering the help that we got from heaven in the former times that comforted them. You got to put our people in the mind of the battles that we won before. David went up against a giant. Different instances when our people was delivered from the famine. Yahweh Shah fed thousands of people with a couple fishes and a couple loaves of bread. That's coming back. All the miracles and blessings, they coming back. So we won them battles, before. Well, we about to win them again. Going up to verse 8. Now expect the victory. And Shalom said that brother Yahweh, Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Barakadah. And he always said we getting that victory. And what? He made them more cheerful. Why? Because they was comforted. And why were they comforted? Because they read. They remember the help which in former times they had received from heaven. By reading out the law and the prophets. So they did what? They looked at the generations of old. Everything written aforetime. And that comforted them and made them the more cheerful. But, all these miracles coming back bigger and better than ever. They're going to be on a much greater scale. Why? Because this is a time of trouble, such as never seen. So when we read here in the book of Maccabees, they was in a time of trouble. But again, Daniel 12:1, we coming into the time of trouble, such as never was. So meaning what? The miracles and the blessings gonna be such as never was. Meaning the miracles and the blessings are gonna be performed on the highest level imaginable. And you can't even imagine the miracles and the blessings that the Lord about to perform for his elect. And that's why when we come to the book of Habakkuk 1:5, behold ye, you Israelites, among the heathen, where you were scattered, and regard and wonder marvelously. For I will work a work in your days which ye will not believe, though it be told to you. So yeah, the Lord about to perform a marvelous work, spectacular miracles, unlike anything we've ever seen before, unlike anything we ever read before. Yeah, we read about the old miracles and the old blessings. Yeah, they coming back, but they coming back in a way that we can't imagine, can't even wrap our minds around it. Even if the Lord told us, even if he read it in the book, we still wouldn't be able to perceive and fathom it and wrap our mind around it. And that makes sense because going to the New Testament, Yahweh Shah, this is John 14:12. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth on me, the works that I do, shall he do also. So what? Yahweh, the scriptures say all the works of Yahweh Shah can be contained in all the books of the world. Too much to be written, too much to be recorded. The world would never know. But Yahweh Shai said that we gonna do the same. Let's continue. And what's some of the things Yahweh Shai did? He healed people of unclean spirits. He healed people with lifelong chronic illnesses. He made blind people see. He made deaf people hear. He made mute people talk. He raised the dead. He fed thousands of people with a couple pieces of food. So again, verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth on me, the works that I do, shall he do also. So yeah, the men of the Lord, the servants, the prophets, they're going to be many Yahweh Shais here on the earth, doing the same thing that he did in the earth. Let's continue. And greater works shall these do. And greater works than these shall he do. So things that we read about that Yahweh Shai did, he said we're going to do greater works than he did. That's why going back to Habakkuk 1:5, behold ye among the heathen, regard and wonder marvelously. For I will work a work in your days, which ye will not believe, though it be told to you. So yeah, that makes sense. Yahweh Shai said, greater works than these shall we do. And it makes sense. Through Habakkuk, the Lord said, he's going to work a work in our days that we would not believe. even though it be told to us. Because even the miracles Yahweh Shai did, those works are unbelievable, though it be told to us. So how much more unbelievable would these greater works be that's about to be performed here very shortly? Again, he that believeth on me, the works that I do, shall he do also. And greater works than these shall he do, because I go unto my Father. What's greater than making a blind person see? What's greater than making a paralyzed person walk without the Neuralink brain chip? What's greater than making a deaf person hear? What's greater than feeding thousands of people with a few pieces of food? What's greater than raising somebody from the dead? See? That's why Yahweh Shai said, wonder marvelously. That he's going to do a work in our days that we won't believe, even if he told us. Many of these works are going to be unbelievable because Yahweh Shai's works was unbelievable. And it's only believable to those who have faith. And that's what faith is. Faith is not believing in something that's easily believable. Faith is believing in the unbelievable. Like in the world, as somebody say, man, you gotta believe me. Somebody will say that because they telling you something that's hard to believe. And that's really what Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai is doing with the precepts that we bringing up. Saying, hey, you gotta believe me. And that's what faith is. So we've been called to believe in the impossible. And that makes sense, because let's hit Daniel 12:1 real quick. We're going to do greater works than Yahweh Shai for this reason right here. And at that time shall Michael stand up. Hey, Michael standing up. I don't know if Michael stood up for us before, but he's standing up for us in this generation. Or if he did stand up for us before, there's going to be that final stand to put the enemy down. So it's already a great work. Where else can we read that Michael stood up for us before? That's that work that we won't believe. But let's keep it moving. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which stand up for the children of thy people. There shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. So for it to be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, there's going to be a time of blessings and miracles, such as never was since there was a nation. So the plagues, the destruction is going to be powerful. But guess what? The miracles and the salvation are going to be more powerful. That we don't fall victim to this time of trouble. All right. So, yeah, greater miracles, greater blessings than we've ever seen before. Greater miracles and greater blessings than anything we ever read before. Greater miracles and greater blessings than anything we can imagine. And that makes sense because even the deliverance is going to be greater than anything that we can imagine. So we're going to end off here. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that it shall no more be said, the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out the land of Egypt. But the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north, and from all the lands whither he had driven them. And I will bring them again into their land that I gave unto their fathers. So yeah, this salvation, this second Exodus, this deliverance is going to be far greater than the first Exodus. And even before this greater Exodus, there's going to be greater miracles and greater blessings being performed up to this point. Them greater miracles and greater blessings going to be topped off with this greater deliverance. So yeah, it's important to what? To look at the generations of old, to see who trusted in the Lord, to see who feared him, to see who called on his name and see how the Lord delivered them. The Lord didn't confound them, didn't forsake them, didn't despise them. It's important to know that, you know. So again, wherefore he exhorted his people. We exhorting, encouraging our people right now, not to fear the coming of the heathen. You know, don't fear Esau and his military. That's coming against them. That's coming against us today. But to remember the help which in former times that had received from heaven. So yeah, look at the generations of old. Meaning what? To read. You can only remember or call them to mind if you've read it, or at least heard and been taught about it. And now to expect the victory. Now we expecting that victory. And the aid which should come unto us from the Almighty, Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. So yeah, remember the help received from heaven, because it's time to get the victory. So that's it for the lesson here. Till next time, Shalom.